back. Well, it is National Animal Poison Prevention Week.
And there's a lot you need to be on the lookout for. Joining us now with more, this is Dr. Diane Seaton. She's with Pet Haven over in the Bay, and she's joining us this morning. Thank you so much for venturing out this early in the morning.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Okay,
Absolutely.
so pet toxin or pet poisoning prevention. This is something that a lot of us pet owners don't really think much about. I mean, obviously we know don't feed your dog chocolate, but
Right.
what are
grapes.
those?
Yeah.
Don't get started on me this morning. What are those main things that pet owners need to be on the lookout for?
Really, there's a wide list. Human medications are a big deal. People sometimes give their medications to pets. Household cleaning products, of course, you mentioned food, plants that you may bring into the house, rat poison, insecticide. So there's a long list of different things they have access to.
Yeah, I can remember too, like let's say back in the day you'd change the oil in your car, you'd make sure you'd take that to a hazardous waste disposal because you know the animals could be curious, that kind of thing. It could be that, it could be radiator fluid, transmission fluid. So you're talking about those hazardous waste type of things, but there's so much more, isn't there?
There are. You know, like I mentioned, cleaning supplies, any kind of toxic chemicals, antifreeze, like you said, those types of automotive products, just a wide variety.
It's a bigger list than we think is kind of the bottom line,
yes,
right?
Definitely.
So speaking of that, there actually is a website that you can go to. It has a full list of toxins and poisons that your dogs or your cats may get into. It's right there. It's the ASPCA.org that has the full list. But Dr. Seaton, in your experience, what do you see most at Pet Haven in the Bay?
Between foods, different toxic foods, and plants. So like you mentioned, chocolate, there's garlic, onions, chives, a lot of things that people aren't aware of. Xylitol is a sugar-free, artificial sweetener that can be in a lot of food products. One thing is peanut butter, so it's really important to read the labels. There are some sugar-free peanut butters that contain xylitol. Of course.
Oh, and that's a biggie because as a pet owner, we love to give our dogs peanut butter. It keeps them busy forever, right? So you have to be careful that it's not a sugar-free peanut butter.
Right, exactly. Or just that it doesn't contain xylitol. So those are the major ones.
Yeah, and it seems like too, there's a lot of foods you think, oh, it's okay, the old tradition of the dog or the cat comes up and you feed it something. You got to be careful with that, obviously, right?
Yes, and high fatty foods too, which can lead to pancreatitis, which if left untreated can be very detrimental.
Wow. Yeah. For the longest time, I gave my dogs grapes, and I had no clue. I thought it's a fruit, right?
Yeah,
and it's just something as simple as, oh no, that is a poison. What if you feed grapes to dogs or cats? What does that do?
It can cause kidney failure, depending on the amount, and depends on how large the pet is and how much they consume.
Wow. So I guess really a lot of it is you got to have your head on a swivel when, let's say, you're walking your dog or, you know, your cats are out in the yard and that kind of thing, because you never really know. But that website that was up there, the ASPCA website, it's got a lot of that on there, and that probably helps because there's more stuff than, you know, less. It's like, well, you keep it simple, I guess, for their diets, right?
Right, exactly. And that website also has a long list of potentially toxic plants to be aware of, just being that it's spring and people will be bringing plants in and just doing some gardening and just doing your research before you buy these plants, and depending on where you put them so that animals don't have access to them.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Very important information. Most of us are pet owners, and you know, it's always good to be reminded of what not to be feeding them.
You want them to be healthy and happy. Diane, thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
More Good Morning Mississippi coming up after the break.